and gentlemen, please welcome the 45th and 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Oh, thank you very much. This was just a little quick stop that we made yesterday. Let's go to North Carolina. We want to go to North Carolina. And what a crowd. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. There'll never be anything like this. You know, you say, let's go to North Carolina. We get this great crowd. Outside you have people. It's crazy. We're having a great time. And you know, these ladies right here, they've been to, I think, over 200 rallies, but I'm not going to say it. And this time I made it easy because they come from North Carolina. They didn't have to travel. Today they traveled about a half an hour, right? Isn't that nice? Instead of traveling all over the country. They're unbelievable. And you look better than you've ever looked, and I'm not allowed to say that. You know, if you say that, if you say a woman looks beautiful, which you do, it's the end of your political career. But I don't care. You look beautiful. Well, I'm thrilled to be back in this incredible state with so many proud, hardworking American patriots, which is what you are. And let me begin by wishing each and every one of you a very Merry Christmas. Remember, they didn't want to say Merry Christmas when I first started. 2016, we don't want to say Merry Christmas. They said, I said, no, we're going to bring back Christmas. And they don't say that anymore. They don't want to say it, but they don't talk about it anymore because they got shellacked. We're here tonight to celebrate 11 incredible months. It's been the most successful first year of any president in the history of our country. It's true. It has been, isn't that a big statement? But it's a statement that you read all over the place. I mean, who could have done better? I don't think anybody could have done better than us, not me, than us. We're in this together. Since my inauguration, we've created more than 53,000 North Carolina jobs, including 8,000 North Carolina construction jobs. More than 150,000 North Carolina residents have been lifted off of food stamps. They're very happy about that. And after your horrible hurricane, which produced more water damage than any hurricane in history, the Democrats let you down. They really did. Remember, they wouldn't do anything. You remember? They wouldn't go to your community. They wouldn't do anything. You had to wait till January 20th when I took office that we really knocked the hell out of it. Remember? As soon as I took office, I got in on January 20th, and first thing I did was made North Carolina phone calls, and we did a hell of a job. Did a hell of a job. You'd still be sitting in the mud if I didn't get elected. You would be. People were sitting in the mud. But I helped rebuild your state, and I didn't get any help from the Democrats, not your governor, not your man that's running, by the way, for Senate against Michael Whatley, who's phenomenal. Michael Whatley is incredible. Your previous governor was a disaster. He's also a radical left person, by the way. He's radical left. You don't want him. He doesn't represent you. And look at the crime. Look at what's going on with all the crime here. The slitting throats and stuff. I never saw that with you. Now, all of a sudden, that's what we see. You got to get Michael Whatley. It's going to be so important. He was so great. Don't forget, I took Michael, and I put him as the head of the party because he did so great. We won the state all 3 times, and it was like a rock. He didn't allow cheating in the second time. I watched all these states, boom, boom, we're leading. People went to sleep. It was over. Then they dropped ballots. They cheated like hell. The only good thing is this is a far better term than it would have been had I done it the more traditional way. It really is. It's a more powerful term. It's a more powerful term. And the biggest news of all is yesterday, it was announced that inflation is far lower than anybody expected. I told you. Beating every one of the 61 forecasts from the so-called geniuses, the experts. We're the geniuses, not them. We now have the lowest core inflation since March of 2021, and we're just getting started. It's unbelievable. And that's despite taking in billions and billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs. Remember they said, oh, the tariffs will cause inflation. Just came out with the best inflation report we've had in years. And lots of cash, too. In fact, 1776, right? $1,776 goes to our military. You know, it was 1,775. And that was the number, you know, that was just a lump. I said, you know, if we had $1, we got 1776. Somebody said, that's genius. I said, well, I'm smart. I said, for $1, and I'll get these ladies who are loaded with money to pay for it from North Carolina. Their husbands can write a check in 2 seconds, take care of it. No, think of it, for $1 more. They said, I can't believe we didn't think of that. Only hours ago, I left a meeting at the White House where we cut the cost of prescription drugs by 300, 400, 500, and even 600%. And I'm doing what no politician of either party has ever done before, standing up to the special interests and demanding lower prices for the American people. This is what we're doing. You know, it's called favored nations. And nations all over the world were screwing us. We would have prices that were 10 times higher than the prices they were charging in London and in Paris and all over the world. We had the highest prices for drugs because we had politicians that wouldn't. I did it in the beginning at the first, but then we had a thing called, you know what happened, COVID? And it was sort of hard to go after France and Italy, say, listen, on top of all your COVID all over the place with everyone dying, we want you to pay a lot of money for drugs. You can't do it. But we did it, and nobody's ever even thought of doing it before. I've negotiated and really did it directly with 17 of the world's largest drug companies, as well as foreign nations that were taking advantage of your country for decades, many decades. For years, Americans have been paying the highest drug prices anywhere in the world by far, 10 times more sometimes, 15 times more. While other countries pay drastically less for the exact same drug made in the exact same plant, in the exact same country. But under my most favored nation, you know what that means? It's a legal term. Drug pricing executive order. I just signed a couple of months ago. and is now being implemented, we have declared that the United States will now pay the same price as the lowest price of any country anywhere in the world. And we should honestly, this is the biggest thing to happen in medicine, I think, since the founding of our country. You know, I don't mind. Go ahead. They actually have a great location. You know, we've had people that look so good behind me that some of them went to Hollywood and actually did very well. You know? See, they may have a better location, but nobody's going to Hollywood. They can only see the back of your head. Look at all the television. Look at all those cameras. It's crazy. But we did something nobody's ever done before. Nobody's tried. Nobody thought they could do it. Don't forget, the drug companies turned out to really do the right thing. They really did. And they were there at the White House today. You saw some of the biggest companies in the world were there. The rest of them are coming next week. But the big problem was foreign countries. They would have to take their drug and raise it from $10 to $20 to $30, maybe to $100, maybe 10 times more. But it really doesn't work that way because the world is a bigger place than the U.S. And so you're not going to have to raise it that much, but you have to raise it. And they always said for 50 years, they said, let the United States pay. And for 50 years, the United States got screwed because we're paying so much more. Drug that was selling for $10 in London sells for $130. That's 13 times more in New York. 13 times more. So $10 in London, $130 in New York. And now that drug will go up for the other country from $10 to only $20 or maybe $30. And it will come down from the United States of America to $20 from $130. Think of that. Think of that. That's the biggest price reduction. When you talk about cutting prices, cutting costs, and cutting prices, you talk about affordability. You know, the Democrats, they're the ones that got us into the mess. They're the ones that caused the high prices. And then they come out and they look at those fake news people back there. They go, this election's about affordability. They go, let's talk about it. No, I'd rather not talk about it because they can't. They're the ones that caused the highest inflation in the history of our country, which led to the highest prices in the history of our country. I inherited the mess. I got the prices down, and they're going down still further. Look at gasoline. A lot of areas now in our country, $1.99 a gallon. Right? It cost these ladies from these beautiful friends of mine from North Carolina, it cost them like 1/3 to get here than it would have cost under Sleepy Joe Biden. Right? If you drive, this time you can drive. It's the first time you didn't have to take an airplane. But we had 9 blockbuster agreements. We had 9 of them with the big drug companies just today. The rest are coming over the next couple of weeks. But the first dramatic drug discounts will be available to all Americans starting in January at a thing called TrumpRx.gov. TrumpRx.gov. But this is the biggest thing ever to happen on drug prices, pharmaceutical prices. And it will also tremendously it's going to reduce the cost of health care because health care is probably 50% about drugs, right? Your drugs are coming down at levels that nobody ever thought was possible. This achievement alone should win us the midterms. You know, if we did nothing else, I said today, you know, you're talking about like this massive reduction in drug prices that affects everybody. Older people, younger people, middle-aged people, sick people, well people. It's not just like patients, it's everybody. It can never happen. Nobody would ever have done this. It was very hard to do. I had countries laughing at me. I said, listen, you're going to have to double and triple your drug prices. They said France, as an example, UK, European Union. They said, you must be kidding. They've had low prices for years. The drug companies would go, could you pay more? No, charge the United. They wanted the drug companies, in all fairness, to charge the United States of America. And they made up all sorts of crap. Well, research and development. I said, well, what about research and development? Why aren't they paying also for research? Well, it just never worked that way. They used to use, remember, research and development. That's why we pay more. I say 12 times more. Why? For research and development? It was all a con job. But I'd say to the head of France, as an example, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to double or triple your prices for drugs. No, 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 we will not do that. Oh, yes, you will. I said, yes, you will. 100%. No, no, no. We will not do that. Of course we will not. I can't do that. I said, yes, you will. No, I won't. Yes, you will. And he said, why do you have such certainty? I said, because if you don't do it, I'm going to charge you a 25% tariff on everything you sell into America. And I said, because that was really the sticking point. They just would do it. They told the drug companies for years, we're not doing it. We're keeping that pill at $10. We're not going to raise it. And the drug companies said, well, you know, it's unfair. I mean, they're paying 10 times more, sometimes 15 times more. That's okay, let them pay more. We're not paying more than the prices were stuck for years. And no president did anything about it. Sleepy Joe Biden didn't know he was alive. The last thing he cared about, was this. He didn't care about anything. Just wanted to make it through. But they cheated. Look, he was surrounded by radical left. Hey, did you see on Mar-a-Lago, did you see how corrupt that was now? It's all come out. Wow. It's all come out. Some life. It's all come out. They were totally corrupt, radical left lunatics. Not stupid people, by the way. He was, but the people that really ran the country and that really ran the auto pen, they were not stupid. But think about what we've done. Under the Trump administration, America will not be ripped off any longer. So can you imagine these countries? And when I told you the example before, from $10 to $20, you know, that doesn't sound like much, but it's a doubling of the price. You know, that's a doubling of the price. And if it went to 30 or 35 or 40, you know, that's still a doubling, tripling, or quadrupling of the price. But I said, a 25% tariff, it's much more money than what you're talking about. So they would say to me, all countries, you know, obviously they said no at the beginning, and they would have told a normal president no, and that would have been the end of the conversation. So they said no to me, and I said, no, you'll do it, 100%. And they said, what's wrong with this? 100%. I said, 100% that you're going to do it. The one asked me, why are you so certain? Why would you say that I would quadruple the price of drugs in France or someplace? I said, because if you don't, we're going to charge you a 25% tariff. That tariff is worth 5 times more money than you're talking about. And there was dead silence on the phone. And then when the gentleman, Emmanuel, is a wonderful guy, when he spoke, he said, you have a deal. Have a deal. He's a nice guy, too. But you can't blame him, you know. This has been 40, 50 years. You can't blame him. But it was the same conversation with everybody. No, we can't do that. No, I cannot double the price of my drugs. I said, no, maybe triple or quadruple. But it's still much lower than we were paying. You know, we were paying a number that was crazy, 13, 14 times more. As president, I'm also taking on the gigantic health insurance companies that have gotten rich on billions of dollars of government subsidies. And I want the money to go directly to the people. I want the money to be paid directly to the people so that they can buy their own health insurance, which will give far better benefits at much lower cost. By the way, what I told you about buying the drugs at this massive dollar discount, it's like from where it is, that's going to have a huge impact on the cost of health care. The current Unaffordable Care Act, commonly known as Barack Hussein Obamacare, was created to make insurance companies rich. It was bad health care at much too high a cost. And you see now that the steep increase in premiums, it's being demanded by the Democrats. It was never any good, Obamacare. It was done for the benefit of insurance companies, which totally control the Democrats. That's why you could have a strike on January 30th. You could have another shutdown because the Democrats are totally in the hands of, they're totally controlled by the insurance companies, big wealthy companies. Again, I want the money to go directly to the people so you could buy your own health care, and you'll get much better health care at a much lower price. And the only losers will be the insurance companies that have gotten rich. How about these companies? Some of them have gone up 1,400%, their stock prices. One, I think, went up 1,700%. How many people have ever bought a stock that went up 1,700%? And think of it. They've taken in billions and billions of dollars. And the Democrat Party is also just, look, I don't know what they're going to do, because I don't know how anybody beats us when we say that we want the money to go to the people so you can buy your own health care. How could it ever be better than that? I wanted to do that at the beginning in 2016, but the politicians told me, sir, don't worry. I was a little bit inexperienced. I've never done this before. Now I'm quite experienced. I've seen things that nobody would have thought possible. But I said, why do we have this crazy Obamacare, or as we call it, the unaffordable, isn't that a great name, the Affordable Care Act? I call it the Unaffordable Care Act. I should get credit. That's a good one. What's better, that or fake news? That or Pocahontas? That? I can't use the names that I used on the Republicans to gain access to the election, but we had some good names, didn't we? But I think the Unaffordable Care Act is pretty good. The UCA, right? They keep talking about the ACA. Think of that. Instead of the ACA, we call it the UCA. The UCA, they say, what is that? The Unaffordable Care Act? It is unaffordable. But it was always no good. But now it's really gone. And with time, it gets worse. Now it's going to be hit big. Remember, I didn't do this. This is Obamacare. This is Obamacare. This isn't Trump. But you don't need it, because let the money not go to the insurance companies. The problem is the Democrats will shut down the government because they are totally beholden. I don't love that word, but they're beholden, they're beholden to the insurance companies. So I don't know what they can do about it, but, they'll probably close down the government. It's so simple. The money should go to the people. The people should then take all of this money and buy the best health care there is. And there'll be a lot of money left over. Right? But they'll not be happy. But that's okay with me, because you, the hardworking citizens, and finally you're going to have great health care at the right price, so you're going to have it. Although today I did suggest one thing, because when I was watching these big drug companies get up and talk about things, they were giving free medicine, and they couldn't have been nicer, they couldn't have been better, and they were, giving us a hard time a while ago, but it worked out good. I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to call these insurance companies fat cats. They are fat cats. I'm going to call the insurance companies, and I'm going to set up a meeting with them, all of them, and maybe I'll have the same luck that we had with the health companies, with the pharmaceuticals and the drug companies that we had. So rather than just saying we're not going to deal, maybe they'll give us a deal, like cut the price by 50%, and maybe then it starts to make sense. So I'm going to meet with them. Who knows? Who knows? And I'll either meet in Florida. I'm going to Florida. I'll either meet in Florida, because I work all the time. So I'll either meet in Florida, or I'll meet in Washington the first week right after we all come back to going to our wonderful jobs. And I'll sit down with, it's like 12, 13 people. It's basically these big monster companies. 13, 14 if I want to be generous. Get 14 people in a room and let's see what happens. Maybe they'll surprise us, but maybe we'll ask them for a 50% cut And maybe they'll give it. You know, you never know. You saw what happened with the drug companies. They're giving free drugs to, I mean, they've been unbelievable. But they do love our country. And I probably think the insurance company guys love our country. They just felt they were dealing with stupid people, so you can't really blame them. Over the past 11 months, we have brought more positive change to Washington than any administration in the history of our country. That's true. And there's never been anything like it. When I took office last January, I inherited a mess. And very simply, I am fixing it. Joe Biden gave us the worst inflation in the history of our country. A lot of people say, you know, the fake news says, it's not the worst in history. It's the worst in 48 years. Oh, okay, sorry. No, they do. They say 48 years is okay. But when I say history, they go crazy. That's when I let them win. I say, I'm sorry, apologize. I like that hat, 47. It's nice, actually. Beautiful, nice thread, gold thread. I watched that myself. I want gold thread, not mustard colored, you know? No, they give you, a lot of times they sell you mustard color. It costs them a lot less. We don't accept those hats. When you have a mustard colored thread, don't accept it. But it caused the prices to be higher than ever before, making it really life unaffordable for millions and millions of Americans. Our border was open, and our country was being invaded by an army of 25 million people. Many came from prisons and jails, mental institutions, and insane asylums. You know the difference between a prison and a jail? A prison's more severe, right? You know the difference between a mental institution and an insane asylum? An insane asylum is more severe. They came from both. They were drug dealers, gang members, and over 13,000 murderers, more than 50% of whom killed more than one person. Think of that. They killed more than one. A lot of them said, oh, I didn't mean, but, you know, when you kill more than one, get them the hell out of our country. How about that incident with that horrible monster that killed the young, beautiful girl from Ukraine, an animal? And to think we'll have him in trials for years, and you'll get some nice liberal lawyer, and they'll say, oh, well, he had a bad day. Yeah, he had a bad day. He slit her throat. We had men playing in women's sports, transgender for everybody, crime at record levels, the worst trade deals ever made. And our country was laughed at from all over the world, but they're not laughing anymore. 1 year ago, our country was dead. Now we are the hottest country anywhere in the world because we finally have a president who puts America first. The last administration and their allies in Congress looted our Treasury for trillions of dollars, driving up prices on everything at unprecedented levels. How about the new thing in Minnesota with the Somalians? They stole, now it came out, the great U.S. attorney up there, they came out, think of this, $9 billion, and they think that's just the beginning. They stole, think of it. In their country, they live on nothing. They have nothing. They come here and they steal $9 billion. Are we stupid? I mean, how do we allow that to happen? Ilhan Omar should be sent out of our country. She should not be allowed to be a congresswoman. She married her brother either to stay or to get him into the country. And yesterday she, I guess, made up a story. She said the police attacked her son. They stopped the car, and the police said, we never attacked him. We never stopped him. It was a made-up story. She's a con person. She's full of con. She says, zero. She said, you ought to get her the hell out of our country. That's what you ought to do. She made up a story that the police stopped her son's car and they harassed the hell out of him. It turned out to be a fake story. There was no stoppage of his car, and there was no harassment. But think of that. In Minnesota, this beautiful place, once beautiful, I don't call it beautiful. You got a governor who's a stupid person and a corrupt. He's corrupt and stupid. But he allowed this to go on. He allowed this to go on. Everybody knew what was going on. But what nobody knew is over $9 billion. And the people of Minnesota are not happy. And you know who's running for governor? Mike Lindell. Do we like Mike Lindell? That man suffered. That man suffered. What he did, what he went through because he knew the election was rigged. And he did it. He just did it as a citizen. Mike Lindell, I'll tell you what, every time I introduced him, he got the biggest hand. I hope he does great. He deserves to do great. That man suffered. These people went after him. They went after his company. They did that with me, too, but at least I knew what I was getting into. He was just a guy that said, geez, this election was so crooked. It was so rigged. He fought like hell. That guy deserves to be governor of Minnesota, I'll tell you right now. He's a great guy, too. But I'm bringing the prices down, and I'm bringing them down fast. You know that? As I saw the other day, and as I showed to people the other day, I made a speech. It was very well received. You know, we had one problem. I put up these gorgeous charts, and it says chart. And I'm, sort of talking about the chart. You're reading into a piece of glass. I got no audience. I got just people, very hostile people waiting around. And I'm reading into a piece of glass for 22 minutes, and I talk about the chart. The networks didn't put up the charts. Only Fox put up the charts. Fox put them up, in all fairness. When we get angry at Fox, we have to remember that. They put up the charts, so you could start putting them up now if you want. But we put up these beautiful charts that were very... Look at that. But I very much like the chart from Butler, PA. I like that much better. That's my all-time favorite chart. That's a great chart. They're all great charts, but I never like a chart like that chart I put up in Butler. Just take a look at the chart right here. That was a good chart. I love that chart so much. I sleep with that chart. But this is okay. There'll never be a great chart for me. It's only the one. Compared to Butler, all charts stink. But look at that chart. Look at the kind of Biden price increases and Trump price increases. Look at that. They're all Biden. We're bringing the prices down. Look at that chart. NBC and CBS and ABC fake news. They're fake news. Oops, that camera just went off. Sorry about that. Every time I mention that camera, you see the red light back there being, you see it go off. ABC fake news. I think ABC's the worst. Believe it or not, George Slopadopoulos, he paid me about $16 million. You have George Slopadopoulos. I heard Chris Christie lost his job. They fired Chris Christie. And they have a great young woman taking his place who happens to be Hispanic and happens to be phenomenal. She's going to do a great job. But they fired Chris Christie. I guess, you know why? He wanted to eat all the time. No, they fired him. He was bad news. But I'd say ABC is the worst of the networks. I would then say NBC is horrible. I mean, just horrible. They had this guy on, this fake guy, the fake senator. I call him the fake senator from a place called Georgia, right? And he was talking about all the, things. He says he's a church leader. It's funny, if you go in as a church leader, they talk about church and state, right? He's allowed to talk about, he said, I'm going back to my church and I'm going to pray this morning. I'm going to talk about all these issues. If a Republican said that, they start screaming church and state. They don't scream. But NBC's really bad. And CBS, I mean, I love the new owners of CBS. Something happens to them, though. 60 Minutes has treated me worse under the new ownership than... They just keep treating me. They just keep hitting me. It's crazy. And then you have Marjorie Trader Brown, I call her, because green turns to brown under stress. So I call her Trader Brown, which I don't like doing because 2 words is too much, 2 out of 3. We're changing to Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm going Marjorie Trader Brown, so I have to trade. And a lot of people don't understand 2 words is too much to change. I actually like Marjorie Taylor Brown better, but everyone says Marjorie Trader Greene is good, but they're all good. But what the hell happened to her? She must have been a stone cold liberal. She's on CNN now all the time. Can you believe it? And it was only because I couldn't call her back. You know, I have 218, 19, it changes. But we have 200 and some odd congressmen and women. I have 53 senators. I have 212 countries. I've got a family. It's nice to talk to my family, too. You can't call a president every single day, and then when the president doesn't call you back, she goes around saying, he doesn't call me back. He doesn't. I said, Marjorie, I can't call you back. I got 2. I think, Marjorie, I just can't call you back. I'm sorry. And I wouldn't call her back. And she goes onto a rant. He won't call me back anymore. Sorry about that. You know, you can only go so far. Yeah, once a month, once every week or 2 weeks, but you can't. You're highly neurotic. Her, not me, but I'm neurotic too. I think I'm probably very neurotic too. I always say controlled neuroses is good. Being neurotic, no good, but if it's controlled, that's okay. It gives you some energy. But what the hell happened to Marjorie Trader Greene? It's unbelievable, but she dropped out because I wasn't going to endorse her, and the person I would have endorsed was going to kill her in the polls. So she dropped out. And then they talk about how brave she is. No, brave would be to stay. And, you know, it's one of those things. But she dropped out. I can't believe it that people can change so much. But you can't go from being a strong conservative to a stone-cold liberal unless you were lying. You know, you can't do that. I mean, you can stop liking somebody, or you can say, I don't know, she's fake. Look, front row Joe. What are you doing in the second row? What happened? Well, you're in the front row. That's good. It's front row Joe. I don't know who's been there. The front row Joes or you? It's pretty close, I think. Very different. Hey, very different types. Would you stand up, please, in the front row? Just stand up. Look at these women. Look. How incredible they are. Right? Even front row Joes will admit they're very great, right? Look how beautiful they are. People like you built our country. You built our country. And that's why we love you. You built our country. The people in this room built our country. Under Sleepy Joe Biden, car prices, gasoline prices, hotel rates, airfare, and more went up 30 to 75%. Now they're all coming down. We're all coming down. Take a look at that. Isn't that beautiful to look? The same is true with groceries. The price of a Thanksgiving turkey was down by 33% compared to Sleepy Joe's high-priced era. Don't forget, when you have the highest inflation in history and or 48 years, do we think and look, in terms of a speech, I think 48 years is the equivalent of history. Do we agree? Can we say? Because they had a piece on me today in one of these fake newspapers, which are all dying. They're all going bankrupt, thank God. But they're the worst. That I misrepresented by saying history. It's actually 48 years. And I said, you know, that's not a bad misrepresentation, I don't think. The price of eggs is down 82% since March. Do you remember? There the people are. Do you remember? Fake news. Do you remember when I just got elected? It was a big thing. We won every swing state. We won the popular vote. We won by like 312 to 200 and something, and like low 200. And we won everything. We won districts, the word district. We won districts by 2,750 to 525. That's a slaughter. And that's the thing when you see everything's red except for two little lines on the left and the right, meaning New York and California. That's the one that really is incredible. 2,750 to 525. We won everything in a slaughter. We won everything. And what a great thing it was, right? When you can have an election that good. And they tried to rig it. Remember we had the thing? Too big to rig. Remember that statement? That was a big thing. They tried like hell. They gave up at about 9:02. It was too big. It was just a landslide. They couldn't do it. They cheated a lot. But we made it too big to rig, and I appreciate you getting it. I said the polls had us up, pretty way up. And a lot of times when that happens, you'll say, let's go out and watch a movie, and we'll come back and watch the president win. No, I said, don't watch a movie. Go out and vote. But it was too big, so it came back. What an evening. That was, what was better, 2016 or 2024? Tell me. I don't know. 2016 was pretty monumental. What was better? I don't know. Beating Hillary was fun. Well, Hillary has a much higher IQ than Kamala. I would say, I think Hillary has probably 50 or 60 points higher. Now, Hillary was smart. She was nasty. Whew, I wouldn't want to go home to her. She was nasty. Remember, she was a nasty person. I was going to use a B word. I said, my wife would not be happy. My wife always says, please, please don't use foul language. You know who else does? Franklin Graham. He says, President. He says, I love your speaking ability, President. You're a great speaker, although nobody says it. You know, I get these big crowds, but did you ever see the press do a story that I'm a great speaker? They say, oh, he looked tired. Oh, he's this. Oh, he's that. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I get crowds, the biggest crowds in history of anything, not only of anything. They never say, he gave a great speech tonight in front of 45,000 people. Look at the crowds that we get, are the biggest crowds ever. Before the election, we're getting 80, we had 117,000 people show up in New Jersey. It was a great speech. You know what they said? He looked tired. I looked tired. You can't be tired in front of 117,000 people. It's not possible. You got a lot of adrenaline. The adrenaline is pumping, right? But that's why they're fake news. That's why nobody listens to them anymore. But remember that we slashed the yearly cost of new mortgages by $3,000. Look at the mortgage chart. We slashed them. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, boy. Look at how much you made with me and lost with that sleepy guy. But everything now is falling, and the only things that are going up are your salaries, the stock market, and your 401ks. They're going up. Do you remember when I first won in 2024, and I was at my first conference? I'm 2 days in. You know, we're recovering from all the hoopla. 2 days in. In fact, I took a day off. They said, something's wrong with the president. I said, I just got here. There's nothing wrong with me. Something's wrong. You took a day off. What's wrong with the president, right? Every time. Do you remember when I had 28 news conferences in a row over 28 days? Sometimes I gave 2 or 3 in one day. And then I took my beautiful Kai, my beautiful granddaughter is a very good golfer. I took her to play golf one morning, and I was in the office very quickly. Something's wrong with the president. Do you remember the rumor was that I had passed away? Do you remember that? I won 28 days in a row. I took the kid to play golf. And we play very fast. She's good at, I'm a very good golfer. And we play very fast. We play in 2 hours. We're dinning. I mean, I said, baby, I got to get out of here. I'm sorry, honey. Enjoy your day. Go hit balls or something. I got to get out of here. I got to go to work. And I got a call. A friend of mine. Oh, you're okay? And I said, yeah, what's wrong? I said, I'll be back in the Oval Office in 30 minutes. Oh, I said, what's wrong with this guy? Then I got another call. Oh, you're okay. They said that I had passed away. Do you remember that? First day in 28 days, these people are sick. That's why I've taken more physicals, because I think you have an obligation to, you know, report. And I hate when they put out false reports. So they put out a report that Donald Trump. So I took a lot of physicals. And I did something no other president's ever done. I took cognitive tests. Because I know that, and by the way, not easy. You get to those last questions, those last 10, 15 questions, nobody on that stand could answer probably any of them. And I got them, I aced them. And no other president's taken a cognitive. Could you imagine Sleepy Joe taking a cognitive test? I don't think he'd get the first question is like,